These small sketchbooks are not perfect, and they are not meant to be. They live in my little shoulder bag and come with me on my daily walks, trips to the cafe and my travels. Most of the pages are quick, messy and even half finished, but they are still really important for me. In this video, I'll show you the simple art supplies I carry for mini sketching and walk you through the top 4 subjects that I sketch the most. Stick around till the end because the number 1 subject actually surprised me with how often it showed up. Before I show you my art supplies and my little shoulder bag, I just want to emphasize again, these are not meant to be perfect sketchbooks. They just come with me everywhere when I pop to the shops or when I'm traveling around, because they are small enough to fit between the practical things I carry, like my keys and my phone. What they contain is still incredibly meaningful to me. They're just part of my daily life. And inside you'll find quick sketches, scribbles. Some pages are unfinished and a lot of it is quite experimental. They are messy and rushed because I do have a very limited time. I'm a busy lady and it may seem that some of them I've started and then wasn't able to finish, but that's okay. Hi, I'm Omar. I'm a sketchbook artist, illustrator and author, and I have filled over 65 sketchbooks, and I use my experience to help and inspire others do the same. Let me know in the comments if you keep small sketchbooks that you try to fill up daily or sketch on location. Even the most chaotic page has value because each one represents a moment that I chose to notice when I was present, when I was able to slow down and make those creative marks. I've been running a creative business for years. I'm also a single parent, a teacher and a traveller, and because I'm juggling so many roles, I don't always have the luxury of sitting down for long stretches of uninterrupted time, and that's where these sketchbooks come in. It's my way of weaving a bit of creativity in my daily life, in the in-between moments. So I've learned that even 5 minutes of drawing when waiting for a coffee or sitting on a bench during a walk is really helpful to me because it all adds up over time. I want to emphasize something that's really important. Yes, these pages are rough, spontaneous, maybe unfinished, but they still count as art practice. They are still part of the process, part of keeping my creative muscles active. Just like warm up for a dancer, I keep these sketchbooks as a way to help me flow with my creativity, with everything else that I do. Something else you'll notice is they are really small, which makes them very manageable. So there is no pressure, there's no drama of that big white page looming in front of me. This small format feels safe and approachable, and it's more playful, it's not performative. I can really sketch without overthinking and without needing to get it right. Another thing I want to say is most of these pages are not for my Instagram grid. A few of them may have appeared in my Instagram stories as a quick photo while I've been traveling for workshops, but that's about it. They are not necessarily made for social media, for likes or shares or validation. They were made for me because I really love to sketch, and that's the part I want to stress the most. I don't need these pages to be seen or praised to know that they have value. These little drawings are still incredibly creative as a form of expression, and they absolutely still count. This is the little bag that I take out with me. It's by Uniqlo. It's their shoulder bag. And inside we have Sketchbook Hannah. See, it's very small, size of my hand. And this is what I've got inside. I don't paint with my lip oil. A Posca pen, coloured pencils. They are a mixture of Holbein and Caran d'Ache. A few brush pens. These are by Tombow, and some other brush pens, and these are by Kuretake Zig. And you can see that there's not very much here. As I mentioned, I do have things which are dark in value, like these items, and mid-range in value, so probably these, and the rest are relatively light in value, and that's why I can get away with creating images that, although are not accurate or true to life. This is what I took out with me to a recent trip to the British Museum. So this in the background was the brush pen, and you know, you can tell that there's still people walking up the steps, even though they're just sort of exaggerated strokes, and that's all I had with me. So the prints that I saw, it's a Japanese exhibition, I just had to use what colours I had. That was this one, and obviously I think these were probably green, but I didn't have a dark green, so I used the other brush pen, this one, and I can just sit in a corner, sketch away without disturbing anybody. These aren't the kind of sketchbooks that you would usually see artists sharing online these days, because they are not curated or polished. They are incredibly raw and practical and very messy. But I really felt it was important for you to see this side of my creativity, not just the highlights. This is real and everyday practice that I do to keep everything else flowing. So please don't be dismissive of their value or validity. Just because they are small and perhaps incomplete, it doesn't mean they don't matter, because every page has contributed to the bigger picture of my growth as a sketchbook artist in particular. Now that you've seen how these mini sketchbooks fit into my daily life, let's get into what I actually draw in them. I thought it might be fun to do this in reverse order. So starting with number 4, we have food and drink. You would think that given I'm also a food illustrator, this would be a little bit higher on the list, but surprisingly not in these little sketchbooks. Sketching food is such a fun and accessible entry point. It is familiar, and best of all, it will sit still for you. So whether I'm waiting for my coffee to cool or I've just ordered a bagel, I will often reach for my pen. They are a way of documenting every day in a gentle, creative way, and I like to think of them like visual postcards. I'm just going to quickly explain you the context for these particular pages. This was my first few hours in Lisbon. I had lunch there. This is like their version of a seafood risotto, and I just sat at the table waiting for it to cool down. That was still in Lisbon. And there was patterning on the glass. You can see that there's texture in the background, but that kind of helps give a nice atmosphere. This was in Spain, where we stopped for a quick coffee. That's my double espresso, before moving further into, I think it was Ronda we were visiting. And this is probably my last day in Portugal. Again, it was my lunch, grilled sardines with potatoes, and you got the olive oil and vinegar, very, very quick. And this was last summer by the river. You can see the swans. We ordered a jug of Pimm's, and I thought the Pimm's was a brilliant subject matter. This is coloured pencil, brush pen, and no, they are not terribly realistic colours, especially with all the other textured background, but I still really enjoyed sketching this very quickly before I drank my Pimm's. In third place are green spaces and landscapes. These often show up when I'm out on a longer walk, on holiday, or just found a quiet moment in a corner of a park. I'm not trying to capture every single leaf or detail. I'm looking for shapes and movement. This is Green Park in London earlier this year, early spring. These are daffodils, although it's still quite a limited palette. Looks like I had a warm grey brush pen, this yellow, the sort of lilac colour, and there's already texture in the background, so you can see me utilising the darker value, the mid values, and quite a lot of this page is left blank. But it was a lovely just to sit under a tree surrounded by all those daffodils. This must have been the winter before. Again, very limited palette. That lilac shows up again. I've got probably brush pen and a coloured pencil, so I think that's supposed to be a man fishing. Although it looks a bit more ghost-like. I think there's only sort of 4 mediums on this particular page, and people often ask me, how do you make the colour palettes work? I don't. I kind of just pick up random stuff and just hope for the best, but a lot of it is done with value. This is more, there's a lot more watercolour in this one, but I've tried to limit the mediums. This pink coloured pencil comes up a lot in the textural line work. This was in Spain. This was in Corfu, where I went on holiday. There was an incredible amount of texture in the background, so maybe there's a bit too much going on, but that was the view from my Airbnb, and this was in Italy. This was on the Italian Riviera. We were just about to walk towards Portofino, and a lot of this is negative space, done really, really quickly whilst eating probably a sandwich at lunchtime. In second place are buildings. I think part of the reason they show up so often in these mini sketchbooks is because I'm trying to get better at them. Perspective and proportion don't come naturally to me, and it's something that I'm really trying to work hard at, and that's exactly what these sketchbooks are for: quiet, pressure-free practice. I want to show you pages from 2 separate sketchbooks which were a few months apart. This was in early 2024 and this was later on in 2024, and I think there is a level of confidence that is coming through. In this one I'm very preoccupied with perspective and trying to get a load of details in there, compared to this was done on location in Lisbon. Literally didn't have time to be counting windows, so it's more impressionistic. I can't remember what the name of the square is, but even this outline here, it is just an essence. I'm trying to capture the essence rather than trying to capture it in a very detailed format, and this was the same square, I think, actually. It was this arch. This might have been a bit later on, maybe when I came back to fly out of Lisbon, and again it's still very, very suggestive, but I know a little bit more about shape and values. A limited colour palette. There's a lot of orange and perhaps a brush pen and a warm grey coloured pencil. This is Brighton Pavilion that I did earlier this year. All this in the background is watercolour, and it's just shape where I've added pen or pencil work on top. Very suggestive with the trees, nothing too elaborate. This was Spain, this was Ronda, done in watercolour, but much of this is just suggested, this sweep of the roof of the amphitheatre, and I think that works really well. And finally, in first place, what I sketch the most in these mini sketchbooks is people and figure work. When I actually counted the pages, this subject came up nearly twice as often as buildings. I think part of why this comes so naturally is because I did used to be an editorial illustrator for magazines and books for many, many years. It's sometimes just a quick gesture or a posture that I want to capture before they move. This is the sketchbook that I took to Italy, to Milan, and I'm already drawing at the airport, and I met up with a few people in Milan, and this is the train to the coast. And on our first night in Rapallo, I just started drawing the other members of the group who was in the workshop with me. This was later lunchtime, another drink aperitivo at the bar. And so there's a lot of figure work there. This is also it's a wine and food and wine tasting event. I was sketching the chef who's in charge. Oh, there's another version of him there. This was done in coloured pencil. Oh, sorry, I meant to add these were brush pen. That's my preferred way to sketch. Coloured pencil is all right, but I prefer the sort of the flexibility of the brush pen, and just trying to get the shape here using negative space. People, it's outside a bakery and we were all having coffee, and I wanted to point this one out because he was actually our waiter in Corfu. Notice the cat. And he didn't know I was sketching him, and when I showed him he was jolly surprised. That was actually done with a fountain pen. Another space that I like to sketch at is at exhibitions. I love people watching, especially if they're looking at paintings like that, just trying to capture the poses, the movement of the body. And this was another event. It was a Urban Sketches exhibition, and this guy is Rick, and he's just explaining about perspective, and we were in a crowd watching, so this was done on the spot, just in a few minutes, using a grey coloured pencil. And another favourite place for me to sketch is at airports while I'm waiting, you know, when you've checked in, gone through security, and you just have this time to yourself. And it's a good example where I'm trying to improve my perspective and sort of composition. I really hope this video has helped in some small way, whether it's given you ideas for your own sketchbook practice or just reminded you that quick, imperfect pages still matter. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. I'd love to hear about your stories about your mini sketchbooks. What do you find yourself sketching when you are out and about? And a big thank you as always to my lovely Patreon supporters. You make these videos and this kind of creative sharing possible. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe for more sketchbook inspiration, process videos and honest reflections on the creative life. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.